Hello everybody, this is a tutorial about the picker control in React Native. What I have here is a simple React Native app done using create React Native app command line from the terminal. All it does is it just creates an empty project that we can work off with. I already have it running on an iOS simulator. So this is what it looks like. There are a few different things that I will try to do in this tutorial. The first thing I'll try to do is I'll just create simple picker control, which comes with React Native. You don't need to include any libraries for it. And then I will, in the next step, I will show you how it behaves in different, in the Android simulator. And then the third thing I will show you is my approach to dealing with the picker. So the first thing is that let's just go ahead and look at the React Native picker control. All I need to do is just React Native picker, and it'll show you the picker documentation. As you can see, the picker is actually very simple control. I'm just going to take this and copy paste it and just put this here instead of all this text. What this is doing is it's just taking this picker object and adding two picker items to it. Let me just change this to something else. So chicken, the value chicken, and then eggs, and then vegetables. That should be enough. And the selected value is the first attribute of this picker control. So instead of language, let's just make it picker selection. And of course we want to do initialize this picker selection object. So I'm just going to do constructor props super props this dot state picker selection default value. So I'm just initializing this to a simple string default value, and what I'll do here is on the top I'll add a text saying the default value is this dot state dot picker selection text, and below that is a picker. And that's, oh yeah, I have to include the picker control from React Native. And actually really that's all you need to set up a picker. Let's just see what it looks like. As you can see that I have hot reloading enabled, so it just updates the screen automatically. So as you can see, the default value is default value, which is what we specified here, but there is no picker. So what happened to the picker? What we can do is we can see where it went by just adding a style to it. This is what I normally do. I just set a border width 1 and border color red. It just tells me where an object is. As you can see, this is like a big vertical line. You wouldn't expect that, but really a picker needs to have a space on the screen. In React Native and on iOS, it takes up a height of 216 pixels. So to make it really visible, I'm just going to change this to position absolute. And I want it to stick to the bottom, so I said bottom 0, left 0, and right 0. So it will just stick to the bottom of my screen. And as you can see, the control is visible. I don't need the border now. And I have a working picker control. It has a white background, so I can just make it a little bit more visible and set background color to a light gray. That's a pretty light gray. So you can see the picker control showing up here. The selected value is bound to picker selection, which we set up here. So if I change this value, it should just show, well, it's not doing anything because we don't have a value change event set. So the on value change item value and item index is setting the language to item value, which is the default, but we don't want it to change the language, we just want it to change the picker selection value. So there you go, that's it. If I change it, it just shows whichever value has been selected. So at this point, you can just stop this tutorial if this is all you needed to do. The next thing that I would like to show you is actually there are a few problems with this default picker control. The first thing is that it displays really differently on Android versus iOS. So I'm just gonna stop the server running here, and I'm just gonna run this control on Android simulator, which I already have booted up here. So I'm just gonna do yarn run Android and see how it looks on Android. I'm just gonna wait for it to boot up. Okay, so I have the uploaded on my Android simulator, and as you can see, the behavior of the picker control is very different. On the bottom, it just shows one value, and on clicking it, it shows me these three options, and then when I pick one, it just it shows the option that I've selected. Now, ideally, I do not want this to be how I present my picker, so I don't even want to use the picker control for that reason. I also want a lot of control on on how the picker is displayed, and I want really both the iOS and Android to show a similar behavior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a different control altogether. I'm going to use modal, and what the modal does is it just presents a modal over your screen. And I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm just going to comment this out. I just did command / to comment it out. It's a handy shortcut. So I'm just going to create a modal here. I've set the visible to true for now. It needs a few properties, but we'll just set those up as we go along. If I put a text inside, you can see that how the modal looks. It just puts like this box on the top. I don't want this to cover my whole screen, so I'm just going to create another view inside it. And I'm going to give it a style of padding, so margin 20, and a background color of darker gray. And I'm going to put this text inside. I'm going to put the transparent is equals to true property. What this will do is that it'll give me a little bit of space around. As you can see, it gives me a little bit of space around the modal, and my screen is also displayed. I'll add some more styles to it to make it look a little bit better. I also want it to be on the very bottom of the screen. So bottom 20, left 20, right 20, position absolute. Just gonna give it those styles, and it should make it a little bit more presentable. Okay, save that. It says here that the on request close is required, so we're just gonna add on request close console.log close was requested, so we can get rid of this warning. So it's a very simple thing that shows up. And here we want to do please pick value, and under that I want to show all the values that you can pick. So I'm just going to use a touchable highlight with text inside saying chicken. Doesn't look like a button by default, so I'm just gonna give it a few. Again, we have a lot of control over how this is displayed. If we use a touchable highlight, I'm just gonna do style padding top or padding bottom for align items center. I'm gonna give this text style as well. Font weight bold. Align items center. For now, I'm copy pasting this. This is not the best approach, and I'm gonna change that. I'm just showing you how this is done, just to show you what it looks like. And I'm just gonna add one more touchable header to cancel. Just gonna make it a lighter gray color, maybe 999. So if I save it, you see what it looks like. It's a bit better. Items on each of these, we can just set it to the view align items center. Yeah, this just puts everything. The bottom, just gonna put a margin bottom here. And this is kind of like the way I want it to be displayed. I mean, I can change the way this behaves. Any way I want. I can. So I have a lot of control over the way this is presented. And then on the onPress event, we will need to add a method to set the picker value. Set picker value to be chicken, and the method I'll just define it up here. Set picker value new value. This dot set state picker selection new value, and that's it for now. This is like I said, if you have like multiple values, if I just select this option, it shows me. So this is done, but really this is not a very good practical approach, because you are creating one touchable header for each object. Instead, what I would do is I'll just create an array of the options that are displayed here. Picker values is equals to array, and the title is chicken with the value chicken. And instead of doing this every time, I just do this dot, it's a constant in the method, so picker values dot map value index, and return this object touchable highlight. And instead of chicken, I can just do value dot title, which is the title we want to display here. And on press, set picker value dot value, which is what we are sending here. And I can just delete these two. And once this, you can see that this is displaying all the contents of our array. It's also giving us a warning saying each item is in an array or iterator should have a unique key. This is very simple to fix. You just, in front of the touchable highlight, you just do key is equals to index, which is what is being passed to this method. And this is really, this does the same thing. I also want this picker to only show and hide if I click a button. So I can just do button on press this dot toggle picker, which is a method that we will use to show or hide the picker. It can be used in many different ways. On press title is equals to select value, and this is the default button from React Native, so I'm just going to do that here. So it just shows this button, And I don't want the visibility of the model to be true every time, so I'm just going to do this dot state dot picker displayed, which is a new state variable. Picker displayed, which is false by default. And then what this button does is that it just shows it if it's displayed and hides it if it's, sorry, it hides it if it's displayed and displays it if it's hidden. Sorry, that was a little confusing. Toggle picker, this dot set state. It's very easy. Just set the picker displayed property to not picker displayed property. So if it's true, it becomes false. And I will also add an animated property here because I want the sorry, not animated, animation type property, because I want it to slide up instead of just pop up on the screen. So I'm just going to do slide. That's one of the properties of the model, and just save it. And by default, you can see that the model is hidden. And if I press this, it should show up. Yeah, as you can see, it shows up the model. But the cancel button should hide it. So on this touchable highlight, I'll do on press this method, this dot toggle picker. So select value, cancel and hide it, and then chicken, eggs, vegetables. Maybe we can just hide the picker once one of these options is clicked. So at the end of set picker value, we can just again do this toggle picker. So select a value, select chicken, and that's it. So in this way, we have a picker that's consistent between these two simulators. Let's see what this looks like on the iOS simulator. So I'm just going to turn off this and run it in iOS and see what it looks like here. Okay, so if I select a value, it shows exactly the same user interface and it behaves the same as well. And this is really what I normally want to do in my forums. I want a consistent user experience, and that is why I won't choose the default picker. Of course, you're free to choose the default picker if that's exactly how you want it to be displayed on iOS or on Android. But this is just a second approach to how the picker can be managed. Well, that's the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to submit a comment. And if you have any questions, I'll be sure to respond to them right away. Thank you very much. Please subscribe for more videos. Bye.